This is Joy News Prime.
Welcome to Joy News Prime. My name is Israel. Live from wherever you're watching, this is the most comprehensive 2 hours of television news. In Ghana, coming up, former VRA chief executive says government must renegotiate agreement covering car power barge currently on its way to Ghana and scrap plans to procure a second one. Two of probably Ghana's most respected anti-corruption crusaders, former Attorney General Martin Amidu of students in Japan threatened following shutdown of troubled Volta Star Textiles Company.
Inflation rate for October remains unchanged at 17.4%.
And residents of communities downstream Wager are unwilling to move despite threat from spillage. Also in this bulletin, we'll bring you entertainment, sports, and get interactive with you on social media. I'll be doing this with
Abigail Adomakunchi
and three others who will show up later in the course of the bulletin, which is also available across Europe on ABN television. Stay tuned. Now, our first story, a typical example of how the NDC government has since 2009 plundered state coffers. That's how the New Patriotic Party has described the latest financial scandal at the Driver Vehicle and Licensing Authority DVLA. Under the contract, the DVLA is reported to have made questionable payments to Photorex, a company contracted to print driver licenses. Yet the printing was delayed, creating a backlog of more than 200,000 unprinted licenses. Speaking at a news briefing on Wednesday, acting chairman of the NPP, Freddie Blay, demanded a thorough investigation.
The DVLA case is another clear case of create, loot, and share, ladies and gentlemen. Unlike the original contract under the NPP government, and typical of this present government, the NDC, this new contract, that's the renewed contract, was awarded through sole sourcing without any competitive tender. On top of that, the new sole source contract actually included less items than the original contract. However, it was more expensive. The renewed contract was for $3.6 million. That is $900,000 million, $900,000 more than the original contract. On top of all that, not happy with inflation, or not happy with inflating the sum of the renewed contract by nearly $1 million for doing far less, the contract was further inflated by nearly 300%. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what is even so saddening. This clear case of corruption at the DVLA is typical of how the NDC government since 2009 has abused the coffers of the state of Ghana. Such is the travesty that whilst drivers and motor vehicle owners are asked to pay more and more after each national budget is read for keeping their vehicles on the road, the revenues raised are rather used to fund NDC corruption. Unfortunately, President John Mahama has shown to be extremely soft on corruption. In fact, he can be said to be very friendly to corruption. This is because findings of clear cases of corruption end up with hardly any prosecution. We call on the president to make this DVLA matter an exception. Let Ghanaians see him turning a new page on his attitude.
Former Attorney General Martin Amido and investigative journalist Barima Osei escalated their war of words on Wednesday, with Mr. Amido describing the journalist's investigative firm as a fraudulent establishment, appearing to be in a boxing ring, jabbing each other over Anas's judicial corruption expose. Mr. Amido says Anas and Tiger IPI were contracted by government for the judicial corruption undercover investigation to suppress political corruption. He also said Tiger Eye is a fraudulent company. Well, Anas has denied accusations in counter statements on Facebook. Malik Dabu, editor of Major Online, has been following statements from the two sides and joins us in the studio. Good evening to you, Malik.
Good evening, Izzy.
Could you summarize what Mr. Martin Amido has been saying?
Well, essentially, Martin Amido's argument has been that, first of all, Tiger IPI is an unregistered company. The basis of his case is when he checked the Registered General's Department rule of companies, he doesn't see Tiger IPI. What he sees is Tiger IPI Media Limited, and he quotes the law. He quotes the Companies Act 1960 and Act 179. And his argument is that law requires that any limited liability company must have as part of the name of the company the word limited. In public correspondences and public media presentations, Tiger IPI does not have limited as part of the name. What he sees is Tiger IPI. And yet at the Registrar General's Department, it is Tiger IPI Media Limited, and not for-profit media organization. That's what he sees. To that extent, he says Tiger IPI is a fraudulent company. He further alleges that the company is an unlicensed company to engage in any private investigations, and he's quoting the police services regulations, and he's saying that regulations as well requires that any person or company desiring to engage in the business of private investigation must obtain a license from the Minister of Interior. He says when he takes the list of companies that have been licensed by the Minister of Interior as security companies, he finds 1,034 companies. Not one of these 1,034 companies is Tiger IPI. So because of that, he says Tiger IPI is an unlicensed company, and to that extent is not qualified to be engaged in the business of private investigations. Nonetheless, he says Tiger IPI is holding itself fraudulently, unlawfully and illegally as a private security company engaged in private investigations, and is enlisted by the government to target persons or institutions that the government does not like and desire to expose them. So for Anas to do these investigations, and then government will use the evidence against the institution. And he says that the judicial bribery scandal is one classic example of government commissioning Anas to undertake investigations for the parties, the government's own propaganda purposes. He says, as you pointed out in the introduction, government is using this evidence to mask gargantuan corruption in government. He says that another investigation was done at Parliament, and the investigation was targeted at minority MPs, but the results showed that majority MPs were involved in deep, serious criminal, financial offenses. Because of that, government has decided not to release that, but has made announced to release only the judicial one.
Now, yesterday he made that point. He made the fact that he made it also clear.
On Monday.
He also made it clear that Anas had indeed been commissioned by government, and he said he was going to supply evidence. Was there any such evidence provided in this latest?
What he pointed to was an interview Anas himself granted on August 1, 2012. In that interview on Peace FM, Anas said that he was involved in some investigations that will shock the nation. And he said that investigation was the last wish of the late President John Mills. And remember that Mills had died in July, I think. So in August, when Anas made this announcement, Martin Amido's suggestion is that Anas was referring to the judicial scandal. But Anas replied and said that is not the case. At the time, what he was indeed referring to was what he did at the DVLA, which was titled Soul Takers. And if you watch the video, when Anas did the SEPS expose, when Mills went there, he told the SEPS officials that the people at DVLA don't think that you are free. We are coming there. You are our next stop. Anas is pointing out that when he said that he was working on a project which was Mills's last wish, it was that investigation he was talking about and not what Mr. Hamidu thinks. But Mr. Hamidu's contention is that as far as he is concerned, to the extent that government was looking for evidence to challenge the judiciary, remember that at the time from 2009, 2010, 2011, government lost a series of cases in court. And each time government lost a major case, government pointed to possible corruption in the judiciary. The response at the time was always, give us the evidence. Martin Hamidu's contention is, it had always been in government's interest to find the information that they will use to confront the judiciary.
And that's why they said
for him, Anas was commissioned to do this work. Now his argument is Anas has not publicly stated that he's not an agent. He says that if you say you have not been paid to do any work, who says that it is only when you are paid that you are an agent? He says the fact that Anas has collaborated with government, and Anas has said that in his own response to Martin Hamidu on Monday, that he's collaborated with government, and whenever that has happened, he has made it public. Martin Hamidu points to that and says, you are actually admitting that you are a paid agent of the state. And if you say you are not paid, it is not only when you are paid that you are an agent. You can be an agent when you are not paid. And he quotes the law. We know that Martin Hamidu is a consummate lawyer. He was Deputy Attorney General under Rawlings. He became Attorney General under Mills. And we know all the issues with him. So he knows his law. So he quotes his law to back the case that if even you are not paid for any work done, to the extent that you have worked for the state, you have worked for the government, it means you are an agent of the government.
All right. So this is the chronology of the event. Martin Hamidu first fired the first salvo, and then we had Anas responding. And then Martin Hamidu fired again.
Yes.
And Anas responded again. Does Martin Hamidu intend to release
He's
another?
actually done one. He did one around 4 o'clock this afternoon. He called me about it. And it is in that one that he's insisting. Look, I have raised a number of issues. I have pointed out that in 2013, you were given a biometric services passport. You haven't responded to that in your response to me. You must answer it. It is also in his response to Anas today that he's pointing out that you are actually admitting that you are an agent of the state.
Right.
And the results that you get in your investigations are used by the state for its own dishonorable purposes.
Okay. I'd like you to hold on for me for a while now. Lawyer for journalist Anas Aramiana says Martin Hamidu is being used to deflect public attention from the judicial bribery scandal. Let's hear him. Malik, you heard the lawyer for Anas Aramiana, Kisi Ejabeng. From what you're hearing, is it likely that Martin Hamidu may want to come back again?
Martin Hamidu is unpredictable, but it looks less likely. He may just respond, but if you talk to him, as far as he's concerned, he's put out all the information that he needs to put out. And in his last statement this afternoon, he points out that to the extent that Anas has admitted that he's worked for the government, Martin Hamidu, has discharged his burden to provide evidence. It is now for Anas, the burden has shifted to Anas to prove that he's not a paid undercover agent of the government.
Right, thank you very much, Malik. And Malik is the editor of myjoyonline.com. Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for Sujaman Kofi Osei is calling for an independent commission to probe the allegation by former Attorney General Martin Hamidu.
We should not look at Martin Hamidu as Martin Hamidu. We should look at Martin Hamidu as a presidential advisor during the time when this incident or issues occurred. We should look at Martin Hamidu as Interior Minister, and for that matter, Cabinet Minister. We should look at Martin Hamidu as Minister of Justice and Attorney General. The Attorney General, who emanates from the current ruling government, is saying that the method that was used in getting the judiciary, the corruption within the judiciary out, when he was presidential advisor, when he was Minister for Interior, when he was Attorney General, that was not supposed to be the method that was to be used. And that Anas methods right, was, as it were, the executive trying to enter or overrun the judiciary and also the legislature. Now, you know, our constitutional arrangements is based on the doctrine of separation of powers, that each arm of government is independent of each other so that we can have the checks and balances, so that one cannot have powers over and above the other. Now, if indeed what Martin Amidu is saying happened, then it would appear that the executive arm of government wants to arrogate to itself more powers than the Constitution gives them. And for that matter, it is shaking the whole foundation of our constitutional arrangement. And if that is the case, then the judicial arm, if they are to hold a big stick over the heads of the the judges and the judiciary, then the judicial independence is compromised. And we cannot have the judiciary not being independent. That is our constitutional arrangement. So what is happening now with ANAS working with government to, as it were, to expose the corruption within the executive is rather troublesome.
You're watching Joy News Prime. Still to come. Little girls who were poisoned tragically by their own mother have been laid to rest at Esikado in the Western region. We'll be back with more after this break. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Former Chief Executive of the Volta River Authority is asking government to renegotiate the agreement carrying the car power barge expected to help end the country's protracted energy crisis. The 225 megawatts barge currently on the high seas sailing towards Ghana is due in the country before the end of the month. Dr. Charles Rekubrobe is, however, of the opinion the facility is no longer needed, especially because it was procured as an emergency option which justified the cost at the time. The outspoken energy expert also backed plans to privatize the Electricity Company of Ghana, disclosing exclusively to Joy News he intends to put in a bid.
I welcome car power when it was first proposed because it was needed a year ago when most of our thermal plants were down. Now most of our thermal plants are working, and you understand with the charging of these plants, car power should have to be deployed into 100% production because it's got the highest capacity charge of any plant, thermal plant coming to Ghana.
So we can't afford to let it sit idle.
Exactly, but the point that we have to ask is, 1 year after it was delayed, is it really necessary?
It may not be necessary, and I would want to agree with you, but what do we do with it? Because we have it on our hands. We can't avoid it.
No, you see.
So what do you propose we do with the car power barge?
What I propose is that we renegotiate what we are paying them. You see, the word emergency denotes that you pay a value added, right? So it is no longer an emergency. And therefore, what we ought to do with car power is negotiate it almost as a normal additional thermal plant that we are bringing in. We cannot say that car power is an emergency when it's been so long in the works. So we need to do that. In an emergency, you are allowed to sole source. Okay, we couldn't do it. But we need to look at the comparative costs of car power vis-a-vis alternative producers who are not allowed to bring in their bids and their quotations because we are trying to do so in a hurry. So we have moved from an emergency to a normal situation. And
probably it's a good time to, I guess, also forget about the second one.
Oh, that one should completely be forgotten. Completely be forgotten. You see, we are in a funny situation. We paid $100 million to car power as warranty, and then we can't pay the people who actually supplying us with gas. We are not able to pay Asogli. We are not able to pay N-Gas. Our own Ghana gas is dying because it's not being paid. Look, all the equipment, I'm told, are on the verge of extinction. The way in which these plants are actually structured in terms of cost, there is always a capacity charge. So that means you are paying for the equipment when it's sitting there delivering no power. So we could have ourselves in a situation where we have a graveyard of power plants for which we are paying capacity charge, and they are not giving us power.
Now, one final issue I'd like to, pick your minds on, that has to do with ECG and the intended privatization or, handing over ECG to a concessionaire.
Yes.
What's your thoughts about that?
My thought, I'm bidding to run ECG.
All right?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the name of your company?
Ghana Power Distribution Company.
So you've put in, as in one of those expressing interest?
You remember that in one of the essays I said that there is a problem with Ghanaians rightly about ownership of public assets. We think that the family heirloom should not be sold off. But not selling of the family heirloom does not preclude the family heirloom being used so efficiently that we make more money out of it. And so I said, let's kill the argument about ownership. Let's concentrate on better quality service. I would like better quality service. You would like better quality service. But the notion that somebody is going to walk away from some ex-colonial country and take over, it doesn't sit well with Ghanaians. So, for me, I don't think that I have a philosophical argument against a better run ECG. But those who also say that we've tried those before and they haven't worked, also have when I was the energy policy advisor for the government, we brought in Electricity de France to run ECG. That did not work. We brought in the Electricity Supply Board of Ireland to run ECG. That did not work. Some other folks came to run Ghana Water. So people are a little bit wary and say, hey, let's look at it. But I'm sick and tired of Ghanaians talking without actually saying, put your money where your mouth is. You don't want foreigners to come? Well, why don't you put your act together? Why don't you invite all Ghanaians to join the Ghana Power Distributing, and then we run our own thing? You see, we always talk, and we are great at it. We know what we don't like, but we never offer what we like. We never, whenever you hear people talking on TV, delivering lectures, everything, they can diagnose the problem, but they never offer solutions. And that has been the bane of Ghana since we got independence.
It's been 3 weeks since the Volta Star Textiles Factory Limited was locked up by agitated workers of unpaid salaries. Such a development immediately impacts on the local economy within which the business operates. Our reporter Latif Idris visited the area and reports beyond collapsing the businesses that rely on the factory, the education of many second cycle students is under threat, as many of them are being thrown out of school for non-payment of fees.
The delay in payment of salaries to Volta Star Textiles workers has run into the 10th month now. Events at the factory in recent times threaten the very existence of residents of Japan and adjoining communities, most of whom have their livelihoods tied to the factory. Parents sponsored their children's education through what they earn at the factory, but that has unfortunately changed. Kofi Pong, who has worked at Volta Star Textiles for 17 years, has a son whose enrollment into high school he can't pay. His son, Amwaku Emmanuel, has gained admission into Apegusu Senior High School, but is still at home. 17-year-old Amwakun's ambition to become a journalist is slowly caving in as a result of his father's predicament. Emmanuel has been frequenting the school with his father, trying to negotiate with authorities at the school to get him enrolled. They have, however, failed to attract the empathy of school authorities who have had to deal with similar situations over the years. The senior house mistress of the school, Mercy Amodaku, tells me the phenomenon has drastically reduced enrollment at the school.
Japan is our largest catchment area, and we used to get students from Japan per the Japan textiles workers and other parents. So we used to have populations close to thousands, but our population has started going down drastically because of the closure and non-payment of parents who work with the factory.
Emmanuel's enthusiasm is gradually being shattered by the situation.
For me, I want to be a journalist. Yes, that's what I want to be. But since the payment is not good, it makes me feel bad.
Many more find themselves in the same situation as young Emmanuel, and it does appear many dreams will be shattered as a result of the lockdown of Volta Star Textile. The story of Cynthia Akono is even more interesting and sad. She has the ambition of becoming a nurse, but because the prevailing situation makes it almost impossible, she started a trade in cookery in an attempt to save towards her tertiary education. Sadly though, she tells me the father is now borrowing from the little saving.
Sometimes when my father is going to work, he also take money from me before going. Sometimes I'll give him 5 cedi, 10 cedis, and then if you add all together, maybe in a month I'll spend for him about 1.5. I'm also working to continue my education. For that, I can't continue. I used to help him always.
So you're saying that your father is now depending on you?
Oh, somehow.
Joy News checks reveals a lot more students who have gained admissions into second cycle institutions are still at home because of the non-payment of salaries. Latif Idris, Joy News, Japan.
We're taking a break now. We'll bring you business news with Abigail Adumakoinchi right after. It's time now for business, and Abigail Adumakoinchi is here. Good evening to you, Abigail.
Good evening, Israel.
Right. So apparently not so bad news because the inflation has remained unchanged.
Right, but it's still high, I think.
Well, yeah, it's still high, but at least it's not going up any further.
Well, hopefully. How sure are you?
For now.
So sure. Well, let's see how it goes. But for now, we know that it's the same. Well, that should be some good news. But I'm hoping that it would go a little down.
Let's hope so, too.
Great. Okay, let's get the details now. An inflation rate for October 2015 is 17.4%, same figure recorded for September, even though the monthly change rate for October was 2.7% compared to the negative 0.1% recorded for September 2015. The national inflation figure remained unchanged. Government statistician Philomena Nyako attributes the figure to high cost of vegetables, mineral water and soft drinks within the month under review.
We see that in October 2015, the year-on-year inflation rate was 17.4%. This is the same as the rate recorded in September 2015. For the monthly change rate, we have 2.7% recorded for October 2015, while that for September 2015 was negative 0.1%. The year-on-year non-food inflation rate for October 2015 was 23.0%, compared with the 23.2% recorded in September 2015. What it means is that in October, things were a bit higher. The prices of things were slightly higher than what we found in September 2015. The annual figure, we are looking at what the base rate was in October 2014. So the calculation is different. This one we are just doing monthly changes.
The chairman of the Presidential Commission, which established the 3-tier pension scheme, T.A. Bediako, is impressing on government the need to ensure maximum job security and a longer tenure for the chief executive of the Pensions Regulatory Authority. This, according to him, has become critical for the effective implementation of the pensions reforms.
The reform started as far back as July 2004 with the establishment of the Commission. They have, however, seen controversies which many believe have also unduly delayed the implementation. The chairman of the Presidential Commission, T.A. Bediako, blames the situation on the lack of a substantive CEO for the sector's regulatory institution so far.
No, it's unfortunate that after the law had been passed and we started operating, we started getting more and more confusion in terms of not accepting the details and so on. But now that the issues have been settled, I hope they will try to do it. But it's unfortunate, and of course there has not been stability in the management of the scheme. Within 5 years, we have had 5 chief executives. I mean, you can't have a scheme of that nature and get every year one chief executive and so on. Now that there's understanding, there's cooperation, we do hope we will not have this kind of delay again.
In other words, you think that the current chief executive should be made to...
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that the current... But whoever becomes the current chief executive, I think we should make sure that he stays longer.
He adds the importance of due procedure in the appointment of CEOs can also not be overemphasized.
Then we should also do the kind of appointments under the Constitution of Ghana. It says that these appointments should be done in consultation on the advice of the council, the managing council, and so on. So if the present one is good and they want to, then they will follow the procedure of getting him interviewed by the Public Service Commission, and then he is confirmed. And now he's confirmed, then he has job security. If you are not gone through the Public Service Commission, you don't have job security.
Prominent among the major negative developments arising from the pensions reforms controversies is the establishment of the temporary pension fund account at the Bank of Ghana to receive the Tier 2 contributions since 2010. It has now been revealed that over 2 billion Ghana cedis has so far accrued from these contributions.
The Member of Parliament for Akwatia in the Eastern Region is calling for a relook at the contract with the Jospin Group of companies 4 years after it failed to turn around fortunes of Ghana Consolidated Diamond Company. Baba Jamal says the company's inability to operate the GCD efficiently has left several workers jobless.
Since they bought the company was divested to them, I personally have not seen any remarkable improvement in the fortunes of the company. The company continues to go down. A lot of scraps are being sold, and then some even houses are being broken down and all those things. And surely it does not reflect the agreement that the company had with government to ensure that that company is turned around for the benefit of the people of Akwatia. I think that immediately DIC have to call a meeting with the company, the management of the company, or those people they divested the company to, and then give them timelines within which to reach some benchmarks, or this contract is abrogated. That's my solution to it. They must immediately call them. They must ensure that they discuss the landmarks that they themselves put for themselves in their contract. And if it is not, if they give them within some reasonable time, they don't implement it. I think that the contract should be abrogated, and then we look for a new company to take over.
Let's do something on the stock market, and the Ghana Stock Exchange says it is waiting anxiously for the Agriculture Development Bank to list on the local bourse. ADB in April this year secured Cabinet's approval to list on the Ghana Stock Exchange. However, the bank's plan to go public has been hindered by one court injunction, or the other by workers of the bank. Managing Director Kofi Amwa tells Joy Business the bank and its shareholders stand to gain a lot when listed.
Essentially, they bring one more diversification as far as investors are concerned, in terms of what portfolio they can put their funds in, and two, they provide an avenue for existing shareholders, i.e., Bank of Ghana, to exit the bank, which has been their plan for some time now. Certainly, it provides opportunity for the bank to become much more transparent and discover its price, because at the end of the day, when it is listed, the price will be traded on the market, and so there's opportunity for it to discover its price, and the shareholders therein will have a better opportunity to discover the real price of their holdings. Yeah.
Time now to look at the stock market, the commodity market, and the currency market, and I have John Amokin here with me. How are you, John?
I'm very good, Abigail.
Well, what's happening on the stock market? We just heard the managing director of the Ghana Stock Exchange talking about some listing. Any good news from the market? Looks like it's been down for a while. Is it still down?
The market is actually is still down, but the point is that the impact of the currency on the market has been very significant over the period. If you look at the CI and then the FI, the CI is actually trailing in dollar terms by almost about 17%. But in CD terms, it's something to do in the ranges of about 14%. So the CD has some significant impact on the market. But right now, the CD, as we are looking at it currently, is actually doing almost about 18, losing to the dollar about 18%, and that of the pound 14%, and the euro about 4%. The only thing the CD is actually doing currently positively is against the South African rand, okay, which is about 5%. That is very good. That tells you about the fact that Africa is trading among itself, and of course the direction of that particular trade is towards Ghana, which is something very significant currently.
But I believe most businesses are interested in the CD gaining against the US dollar.
Exactly. But on the continent, we're also looking at the point where Africa can trade amongst itself more, so we can have a lot more wealth stay in this particular country to grow our GDP variously. So I think, broadly speaking, the CD has been relatively stable over the period of time.
That's good to know. What's happening on the commodity market?
On the commodity market, crude oil is actually losing by 1.88% to close at almost about $42.83 per barrel. Cocoa is also doing very well by gaining some $34 today to close at 3,313. Gold also not doing well as usual by doing 1.46%. Which is quite critical going forward, because we are reading the budget next week. What is actually in for Ghana going forward, because we are a raw material exporting country. So these are very significant going for the country. But on the Ghana Stock Exchange, it's very critical. We're getting to the end of the year. But the point is this, that today we didn't see much significant activity on the market. All we saw actually trading is Mechanical Lloyd and Unilever all gaining 1 peswa today on the market. Okay, so there isn't much activity on the market, and that is exactly bad news. Thinking that after the exit of Kofi Amoabeng, we will see some marginal improvement on the market, but we are not looking at that. So I think the market has been relatively stable. Let's see, tomorrow will bring some good news for Ghanaians.
Let's see what tomorrow brings. Thank you very much, John Amwako, with the details. And that will be all for business. My name is Abigail Adomako, and you do log on to myjohnonline.com/business for more business news.
Watching Joy News Prime. Now, veterans across the country say the best way Ghanaians can show appreciation to the service they rendered is to maintain the peace. At the annual Remembrance Day celebration in Accra on Wednesday, the visibly weak veterans who fought in the Second World War spoke about the importance of peaceful coexistence. Others, however, were not so happy with how they are being treated and therefore refused to join in the ceremony. Hano Dame was there for Joy News.
That's the sound of the siren to remember the many fallen heroes of World Wars I and II. 70 years ago, on November 11, the guns went silent, signifying an end to hostilities. Each year since then, veterans who died and those who survived are remembered as a show of gratitude. At this year's celebration at the Osu Cemetery, Vice President Parkwese Mr. Arthur laid a wreath on behalf of the people of Ghana. Other wreaths were laid on behalf of the Commonwealth and allied countries, diplomatic corps, security services, veterans, and traditional leaders. Veterans WO Class 1 Kuma Emmanuel Dakum and Sergeant John Ofori told Joy News their toil should be appreciated.
We have taken it granted because some of us don't know if there is something which is hard. Some say route. Some people haven't seen some, like say 66, 79 and 81. So when you talk about peace, they say, oh, forget, if you die, you die. This is how some people say. But I'm telling you, I'm giving you that we should pray to Almighty God that set of the thing doesn't happen again in our country.
What would you want to see differently done for veterans? I know you've been struggling and fighting for your pensions to be raised for some time now.
In fact, actually, for the pay, my sister, let's leave it there.
They have to do something better for us because we, when we were not Goku veterans, no Ghana. But war, we are suffering, die, and take Ghana for us. But if you bring a guy there, we are doing something for Ghana. So we are coming as a useless people.
Based on what you saw, which was a lot of blood, war, and all of that, do you think that we are taking the peace we have today for granted?
Yeah, we don't value the peace we do. We don't value it. Why? The reason why you don't mind is what is something better done for us. I know you are valuing us, but you don't know nothing have been done. How can you say you value us?
Some aggrieved veterans who boycotted the event, however, besieged the place to register their displeasure about their allowances and welfare.
We've been patient for long. We can die now.
We still be dead bodies. We will die. We are ready to die.
We are ready to die for this.
The Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection registered some veterans onto the National Health Insurance Scheme. For Joy News, my name is Hannah Odami.
Four-time flag bearer of the People's National Convention, Dr. Edward Mahama, has come out from his political hibernation to submit forms to contest for the leadership of the party again. He has previously led the PNC into 3 electoral defeats, but Dr. Edward Mahama says party supporters want him to try again.
The PNC family is dedicated to the peace and stability of this nation. This role to enrich, stabilize, and prosper this nation in the democratic journey shall not be mortgaged to individual selfish interests that rather endanger the peace, stability, and prosperity of this nation. It is in recognition of the noble role the PNC has played that I found it difficult to turn my back to the party at this hour in Ghana. In politics or even in life, one should not turn your back to a person or group of people who need you, because you may have need for them someday. There's a popular song, Lean on Me. We all need somebody to lean on. I'm doing this sacrificially and at a great personal inconvenience. Therefore, in reciprocity, I expect that at the World National Delegates Congress, you will give me an overwhelming endorsement. I'm answering your call to come back in acknowledgement of the fact that for 16 years and over 4 election cycles, you kept sending me back. I'm back, I'm back, I'm back. I'm grateful. Let me also take this opportunity to tell Ghanaians that Dr. Mahama is coming back to provide them with solutions to their numerous problems, ranging from doomsday, youth unemployment, to falling health standards. Our ideas have helped our country a great deal. It is my hope that the many problem-solving policies we will be bringing out in the fullness of time as we approach 2016 will give Ghanaians no reason not to have Dr. Edward Nasiri Mahama as their next president. We have a great nation, and PNC and Edward Mahama will make it greater. God bless PNC, God bless Ghana. Thank you. I will give you copies. I will give you copies of it. You give me copies.
There was intense outpouring of emotions as the people of Esikado lined the streets of the town to bid farewell to 2 little girls who were poisoned tragically by their own mother. The 40-year-old mother was absent at the church service as she is currently undergoing psychiatric evaluation to determine whether she is fit enough to stand trial. Correspondent William Benjamin Peters joins us on the line with more. Good evening to you, William. All right, we do not have William on the line. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll bring you international news. Right, Efo Harrison is here to tell us what's coming up on Joy News Interactive. Good evening to you, Efo.
Good evening, Israel. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
All right, well, let me tell you what is coming up. Amidu versus Anas. What's the public's verdict?
Everybody is trying to just find a ways and means to rather say what he did is not credible. But I think he's wrong, because if it happened to be that he were to be a victim of those circumstances where Anas brought up those issues, he wouldn't have been speaking the way he's doing now.
More of that later. And Do you think the age at which you get hitched correlates to the success rate of your marriage? Well, a study seems to suggest so. So I will be finding out from Israel what he has to say about this. But the real star of the show is you. So please get ready to join us with your comments in just under or over 30 minutes rather. That's when we get interactive on Joy News. Israel.
Thank you very much, Efwa. And also coming up in the second hour of the bullet, we have entertainment and then sports. Please stay tuned. We're back in a bit. Time to bring you a recap of our top stories on Joy News Prime. Former VRA Chief Executive says government must renegotiate the agreement covering the car power barge currently on its way to Ghana and scrap plans to procure a second one. Two of probably Ghana's most respected anti-corruption crusaders, former Attorney General Martin Amidu and investigative journalist Anas Arumia has engaged each other in a media war. Education of students in Japan threatened following shutdown of the troubled Volta Star Textiles company. In business, inflation rate for October remains unchanged at 17.4%. Now, the Ghana Water Company has started spilling excess water from the Wager Dam. The company says the spillage is necessary to safeguard the dam from possible damage or collapse because of a sudden rise in the water level above the safe operating limit. Matilda Vamaga has more.
The Wager Dam, according to the Ghana Water Company Limited, has a maximum depth of 50 feet. The safe operating level is supposed to be 47 feet, but as at Wednesday morning, the level was at 48 feet, prompting officials to open 2 spill gates. According to the company, they will continue to spill at 6 inches until the dam reaches the 47 feet safe operating level. But anytime the spill gates are open to enable the excess water flow downstream, a lot of communities are exposed to risk of flooding and loss of property. Communities like Oblogo, Thethegu, and Lower McCarthy Hill are often the worst hit when the spill gates are open. The residents, though aware of the danger ahead, say they do not have plans of relocating.
Times if the dam is full and they have to open the dam, where the dam has to pass, but at times they have sold those land to the people to be living there. As they open the dam, it disturbs them. But the stakeholder, the community holders too, they know that where they are selling is not good, but they are still selling it. Everybody can wake up then sell the land for anybody he likes.
So you think that is because they are selling the lands along the waterway that is causing all this?
Yes. Because the way they are selling those waterways, that is causing all these things.
Because at times,
We do not have plans of relocating. Relocating to a different community means paying for rent, and we do not have money for that. So we can't relocate.
Like a dime over what baby cry is car.
To the end to me to. What do you mean to say?
This has been our home for years. We are used to the flooding. We do not have plans to relocate.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Water Company says it is collaborating with the various municipal and district assemblies, NATMO, and national security to educate the general public on the essence of evacuating such communities to forestall any eventuality. Matilda Pamaga for Joy News.
Now, there was intense outpouring of emotions as the people of Isikado lined the streets of the town to bid farewell to 2 little girls who were poisoned tragically by their own mother. The 40-year-old mother was absent at the church service as she is currently undergoing psychiatric evaluation to determine whether she is fit enough to stand trial. Correspondent William Benjamin Peters joins us on the line with more. Good evening to you, Benjamin.
Good evening, Israel.
All right, tell us about those who turned out to bid farewell to these girls.
Yeah, those who turn out are mostly the family members from the mother's side, as well as that of the fathers, as well as well-wishers from the land of bread of Sekeli, Takrami.
How about the mood in the town?
In fact, it was really sorrowful. I don't know how to describe it. It was really bad. Majority of us couldn't withhold our work here. Even this afternoon, I was telling Steve that even the media guys who are around, even at the point in time, we couldn't control ourselves. It was so sorrowful as you see these innocent faces of these children lying in their coffins. It was so bad.
And what did the townsfolk have to tell you?
Yeah, they were amazed at how a mother can poison her own children. And we are talking about a woman who has degrees. She's a learned somebody, and people were amazed as to why she could poison her own kids. That is a mystery that is yet to be unfolded. That was the topic that most people were amazed at the ground.
Right, thank you very much, William Benjamin Peters, joining us from Takrady in the Western region. Now, Living Covenant, the homeless man known to offer spiritual counseling and guidance to several of Accra's residents, is passed on. A very popular figure, especially around the Nima roundabout area where he's made his home. Living Covenant was found dead by some passers-by. His death comes just about 3 weeks after his debut interview on Joy News. MFA Wenam Etiamwa Eli, who conducted that interview, was there again today when he was pronounced dead by the police.
He comes off as a mentally challenged man who's made his home on the streets just like the many others found in Accra, except he's not your average lunatic. Living Covenant, as he calls himself, is said to have among his clients some of Ghana's most influential people who are said to regularly pull up in the expensive vehicles to come and consult his oracles. On October 21st this year, when I interviewed him, Living Covenant challenged assertions he was insane. Somebody passing by would think that you are mentally challenged. You don't look. Are you mad, if I should ask?
I'm not mad. You know who people that normally concluded that way? People that knew that I came to this country to arrest, expose them.
He, however, was unresponsive today. Living Covenant has gained popularity on this pavement because he's been offering spiritual guidance to a number of people who come to consult him on so many issues. This afternoon, Joy News had the information that Living Covenant had passed. So I quickly got here to check if the information was really true. I've been here for the past 10 minutes and I've been trying to call him. He seemed to be sleeping and he's not responding. I'm trying again if you respond to my call. Living Covenant. Living Covenant. This is MFA from Joy News. Living Covenant. Well, as you can see, he's still not responding to my call. I can't really tell whether he's really dead, but the best I can do at the moment is to report to the police who are just nearby the Nima police station. The police, after pronouncing him dead, called in an ambulance to convey his body to the morgue. Members of the community explained they had observed on Wednesday morning Living Covenant interacting with some clients until late morning when he stopped responding to cheers from his fans who went by his place.
Well, initially when you see him, the way he speaks, the way he relates with the people, but of late, before he passed on, you could see that he doesn't talk the way he talks. Sometimes when he knows somebody, and then you are passing by to either the police station or to Accra, he tried calling you. Are you getting me? So, but before he passed on, you could see that the strength is no more there. So you couldn't do what he was doing in the past.
And how long has this been?
Oh, for the past 2 weeks. I've been told by one of our largest in the area, who normally writes for one of the newspapers, that he came to interview him 3 weeks ago. But 3-4 days ago, when he was passing, you could see that the man was not in good condition.
There is no word yet as to the cause of death. The only known survivor of Living Covenant is a medium-sized cat dressed quite like him. MFA Ewenam Atiamwa Eli for Joy News.
We're taking a break now. We'll be back with entertainment.
Entertainment news is brought to you by
Airtel, the smartphone network.
All right, time now for entertainment. Ms. Jace, yeah, good evening to you.
Good evening, Israel. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
I knew you were going to wear a purple tie today. Yes, I knew.
How did you guess?
I don't know why I didn't tell you yesterday.
Yeah? Okay, well, I just you asked me to do it, so I did.
Okay, so you're looking fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. And you are too.
Thank you.
Yep. What's coming up?
You know, Kofi Owusu and Dia and rather, Koda. We all know him to be called Koda, the gospel musician Koda. You know, he's part of those who are billed to perform for this year's Adum Praise.
Yep.
As we expect Zachariah Walker. Now, he visited us and he's been telling us what we are to expect at this year's Adum Praise.
Come 21st, we prepared well, humanly, possibly very well, to give our audience a great time in God's presence by the time we come.
I like that song.
Yeah,
I was really humming to it. And
you know. Yes, so we're hoping to see him perform the song. But he talked about the fact that, you know, these days people hardly buy CDs. When's the last time you bought a CD?
Well, probably at Sally's wedding.
Okay, so Sally needs to bring you your CD, I know. But that's the last time you bought a CD.
Yeah, that was the last time I bought a CD, but I hardly buy CDs.
He talks about the fact that now there's a drop in sales for them, that people do not buy CDs. He says it's understandable, but these days they have to depend on pastors and event organizers to invite them to get something for their pockets.
Oh, yeah.
I would say that the music industry is a little different now. It used to be in the past that there were huge music producers in the country that could afford to buy your album for 300 million and the whatnots, put you on TV for 8 months and things. But CD sales have gone considerably low. People are now ripping songs onto pen drives and then Bluetoothing them what CD to buy. Let's be realistic. So if by God's grace you do a few ministrations in churches around, from time to time they do give blessings to us.
So next we go to Bisakede.
Yes, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the future of high life music. I spoke to Rex Umar sometime within the weekend and he talked about the fact that, you know, the future of high life music in Ghana is bleak. Now, he kept mentioning, not just he, but some of the others mentioned Bisakede as one artist you're looking forward to shine high life even when they have, you know, passed on. And Bisakede has been talking about high life because he's an high life artist. Now he thinks that the genre has been underrated. Yes.
And it's true. It's true.
And that's a song everybody talks about.
Mansa.
You know, everybody's talking about Mansa, and we still don't know who he wrote that song for. But he says it's not Becca.
Oh, he said that?
Yes, he says it's not Becca.
All right.
You know,
Gas Miller.
Gas Miller says.
Telemo.
He says two things that sells Ghana to the world: football and high life music.
I believe that high life is one of our trademarks in the world. Like people, when the moment you say Ghana, the thing that comes into mind is football and high life. Those are the two things that we have that people know us for. Yeah, Telemo is a high life song. At the moment it's a fisherman melody, but the production is a high life production. But the melodies I sing in there, it's authentically Ghana music, like Ghana melodies.
I didn't know that Telemo was a
I actually argued when I heard it the first time that Telemo was high life, and it took Marco Kwekumanti to say, look, this is high. 7 covers. The latest of which is Omoumi, Nigeria's Omoumi. She has a fantastic cover of Adele's song. Take a listen. But you need to hear, you've heard this one, so I don't need to say you
I need to really take my time and listen to it.
All of them, to the original, and then to Joe's. And there's a Chinese lady who has a version, but it's in English though. I know it's not in Chinese, you know. But can you imagine that Adele turned down a collaboration with Beyonce?
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine?
Yeah,
you never thought she could
Beyonce.
do that. Yeah, you know, Queen Bee, you know, who would do that? But Adele says, no, she admires Beyonce, but the people she's always hoped to work with, they're all dead. She's not doing Beyonce's kind. So Justin Bieber, has released a new album. It's called Purpose. And he said, first of all, that it was to say sorry to all the people that he's offended and he's being a very, very naughty.
And for being naughty.
But he was on Ellen DeGeneres show, and she asked him certain questions about the fact that she heard that some tracks in that album were dedicated to his ex-girlfriend. And here's what he had to say.
Lina Lopez have to say about that.
She's not talking, you know, she's gone, you know. This is all in the past, you know. She doesn't want to have anything to do with him again. You know, she accused him of cheating and all that, you know, so.
But you never know, they may come back. I mean,
well, you can never tell. You can never tell.
They live in the world of their own.
Exactly, you know. So that's it for entertainment. But before we go, take another listen to Omomi's cover of Adele's Hello.
All right. All right, it's time for sports, and Gary R. Smith is here. Good evening to you, Gary.
Good evening, Easy.
What's happening to Sepp Blatter?
You know, the English version is a nervous breakdown. The Ghana version is Kpokpoblibli. The true
Why
version.
Kpokpoblibli? Why not Beshi?
Beshi Allah. The true version is in Nkiti, you know. So yeah, that's what's happening to Sepp. We have some AFCON qualifier updates from around the continent and the Black Stars.
Is it likely some of this Beshi or nervous breakdown may trickle down to our part
to
of
Ghana? No, our people are strong, you know. They eat very resilient food, so they won't be affected.
All right, take it away.
Okay, so Sepp Blatter went to the hospital today, but his spokesperson says he is fine, and that's how we begin the sport today. The FIFA president is adamant that he's still in charge, and after he was taken to a hospital in Switzerland for what was said to be a small nervous breakdown, he says everything is all right and nobody should be too worried. Some have suggested that because of the corruption allegations that have been leveled against him and the pressures that have come as a result, the FIFA president, who has been suspended for 90 days, don't forget, is having problems with his health. But he says he's fine and that his body is failing him, even though his brain and his heart are very, very fine. AFCON, some World Cup qualifier highlights. So today we have Mozambique versus Gabon playing first, and I give you the updates of Angola versus South Africa. So as the 20 nations look for start preparing for places for the World Cup in the various qualifiers, Zambia traveled to Sudan. It was a terrible pitch, as you would see. It was hard, it was dusty, and a lot of people said Sudan actually made this pitch available to make Zambia have a difficult time. Unfortunately, it did not work. So 13 teams have already said bye-bye because they have been eliminated from the World Cup qualifiers. However, there will be some games to look out for tomorrow. Tomorrow, Thursday, there will be Burundi versus Congo DR. Namibia will be at home against Guinea. Benin will be playing Burkina Faso. Togo will be playing Uganda. And Morocco will be playing Equatorial Guinea, one of the games to watch. On Friday, the Black Stars will be playing, and it's one of the games we should be looking out for across the continent. We expect them to be leaving tonight for the Comoros Islands, somewhere behind Madagascar. But what's this we are hearing about? Rumors that the team will be paid only half of the bonuses they are usually given. Andre Dede Ayew has given his take and says that everything should be sorted out quickly.
We are preparing to play our game. It's true that there are a lot of talks, but we have not heard anything face to face. So we are preparing ourselves to play our match. You know, waiting for all the bonuses who have been due to be paid, and you know, we don't have any issues. I think what is important is that we concentrate on our game, and that I think that behind everything will be done so that the players will receive the money that they have been owed, and we can go on with that. I think that's what's important. What's important is the grass, not the things outside. So what I know is that the players are preparing to play, and that we know. I hope that the FA and the people behind are discussing with the ministries to deal with the bonuses that have not yet been paid.
So you heard Andre Dede Ayew speaking about this ministry. Well, Honorable Mustafa Ahmed, the sports minister, has said that the slash that has been heavily talked about in the media from $10,000 to $5,000, it may happen. You could tell that he's been hinting, but he says it's not confirmed yet.
Winning bonuses for the Black Stars, is it 10,000 or is it 5,000? I don't think there's any law that prescribes how much should be paid to the stars. It's driven by ability to pay. So when you are going through challenges, you want to look back and see whether you can reason up with your partners or your kids so that you can cut it. So there's nothing that is written or cast in stone. There's nothing like that. But it's a matter of concern to us that for quite a number of months we've not been able to get the money to pay them their bonuses. So will it be fair to continue to promise them that, oh, you get 10,000 after the match when you know you are not able to pay that? So that is the conversation perhaps that we need to begin with, engage with the GFA and indeed the playing body. But no firm decision has been taken as yet.
So, no firm decision has been taken as yet. That was Mustafa Ahmed, the sports minister. And as you saw on the slide there, he was speaking at the GFA Congress 2 days that happened at the Ghana Soccer Center of Excellence in Pram Pram. So, it was the 22nd Ordinary Congress where the newly elected 22-man executive committee of the Ghana Football Association was sworn in. One of the members coming in fresh is Kurt Okreku. He's the CEO of Premier League side Dream FC. He promises quality policies to improve football in Ghana in the coming 4 years.
I'm looking forward to our very first meeting, and I'm sure that the meeting will set the tone for what we must expect. But of course, we're expecting good policies. We're expecting that over 4 years our game will progress, especially from the grassroots level, and of course we've been very, very competitive at the national level across board, be it male or female. Quality across board. I mean, I have always been associated with quality. Quality in policy making, quality in selection of personnel, administratively, quality in the selection of players for our various national teams, and quality in the organization of various leagues. I think this is very, very crucial for the development of our game.
Speaking there, let's go over to Europe because Spain will be playing England in an international friendly, and that will be on Friday. We have the preview to that. Okay, so the international football week is upon us. Black Stars playing in World Cup qualifiers. In Europe, there will be some friendly matches, but for some, like Wayne Rooney, they will use the opportunity of not having club football to take on some hobbies. And at the weekend, he was at a World Wrestling Entertainment, or the WWE. If you know about Wayne Rooney's history, you'll not be too surprised. You know, at a point in his life, he was a boxer before he went to Everton, and then Manchester United came for him. Anyway, that's on the flip side. But head over to myjoyonline.com/sport for more. And one of the stories that's been trending in the last couple of hours is the fact that the World Anti-Doping Agency matter is still a big deal, and Russia sports minister, he's still booming. Now, Vitaly Mutko says that Britain's anti-doping system is absolutely up to zero. And this is in reaction to the fact that Britain have been leading the charge to say that Russia's athletes have been doping, and so they would like Russia to be suspended from the next Olympic Games. These and many more stories you can find on myjoyonline.com sports page, and also on our Facebook and Twitter platforms. My name is Gary L. Smith. You can get me also on Twitter at Gary L. Smith. I'll be back tomorrow with more. Bye-bye.